Hello, welcome back, welcome back. How have you been? Are you well? Are you sleeping okay? Are you enjoying the weather? Okay. Well, I'm very well, thank you. We're having some sunny weather here in the UK. It's quite sunny and shiny and getting really hot. We've had up to 25 degrees centigrade recently, so it's getting very, very nice. There's a lot of greenery around, lots of flies and bees and insects, especially out here in the countryside where I am now. And so, yes, right now it's getting really nice. Everybody's happy. People are having barbecues and spending more and more time outside, enjoying their weekends. Right, so this week we're going to talk about yoga and the benefits of yoga. So, okay, first of all, what is yoga? You see me looking down, I've got some notes. All right, so the practice originated in India around 5,000 years ago. So it's been around for quite some time now. It's been around for quite a while. Okay. It's been adapted into other countries in a variety of ways. The original purpose of yoga was spiritual development, to train the body and the mind to self-observe and become aware of one's own nature. So that's quite interesting. Just the idea of observing yourself. So I'm guessing you know when you've got a headache and aches and pains in your body. But I guess to sort of step out of yourself for a moment and objectify or work out why this is happening. Maybe you can take a moment just to think about whether you're sitting comfortably, whether you're warm, whether you've got a cup of tea, are you feeling hydrated? You know? So objectifying and thinking about yourself and just sort of having a check-in, as they say, with your own body. Just checking in. Is everything all right? Am I okay? You know, that's often something somebody might say or do after they've taken a tumble, perhaps. Maybe they've tripped over and they're like, oh, right, yeah, nothing's broken. I'm not bleeding. So that is a thing we do. Check in with ourselves. So if it was made, 5,000 years ago for spiritual development, body and mind. All right, so that's interesting. Nowadays, anyone can take part, both beginner and advanced classes. Advanced? What can be advanced about learning and knowing about yourself? That's what I'd be asking myself. You know, how many levels are there? All right, okay. It's also an excellent way to help manage stress, physical and mental well-being. What does that actually do? What does that actually mean? Physical and mental well-being. We've heard a lot about mental well-being and making sure you get enough rest and enough holidays and enough downtime so you're not stressed out. But what about physical well-being? What exactly does that mean? Now, I can only guess it means that you're looking after your body and not staring at your phone for hours and hours and hours and end up with a real bad back and posture issues and things like that. Okay. It also says about focuses on strength, flexibility, breathing, and as we already said, being aware of yourself. Okay, all right. The benefits of yoga. All right, so if you do yoga, why should you do yoga? Why indeed? All right, it's good to look at yourself and say, oh yeah, I got a backache, but what good is yoga then? I did have a look earlier and I seen there is some real scientific research and there were several different topics about why yoga is so good for you. Real scientific studies. Okay. So it says here there's quite a lot that's been published. Yeah, we know that. It's a safe and effective way to increase physical activity. So instead of going for a walk, which is, fairly safe, and it's activity that gets your blood pumping, yoga is also very safe and easy to do. Easy to do? Easy to start. As far as I know, they bring in practitioners or they bring in teachers into care homes and into hospitals for people to do some yoga, often sitting down. It can be started and done at a very low basic level. All right, okay. What else does it say? Yeah, it says about back pain, aches and pains, gives you more energy, brighten your mood, helps with daily stress, yada, yada, yada. All right, so what else? Does yoga count towards the recommended daily amount of activity? Well, I guess it would do, yeah. And then also it says about whether or not you're the right age to be getting involved with yoga. Because some activities, some sports, you wouldn't recommend to a young person or maybe a pregnant person. And so the answer to that in regards to yoga is yes, if you're pregnant or elderly or even young, then this activity is perfectly fine for you because it's a gentle activity. Okay. There's different styles of yoga, which I wasn't really aware of. There's Ashtanga, considered the most challenging, the most difficult. I can't, pardon me for pronouncing this wrong. Iyengar, good for cultivating strength and stability. And then Hatha yoga, recommended for beginners. Okay, that's all I know about that. You can obviously do it online and things like that. It's supposed to be really good for stress and help manage anxiety and things like that. So going back to the studies that I saw, like I said, there was a big list, and they said things that it can help with your blood pressure. So how would an exercise help with your blood pressure? Because generally an exercise raises your heart rate. And it gets you awake, alert and alive. So how does yoga help with blood pressure? So apparently, because of the aspect of yoga where you focus and spend time practicing different breathing techniques, then that can have a profound impact on how you can relax and calm yourself in situations that may be deemed a little bit stressful. So, I don't know, if you're going for your driving test and before you go to the car, you meditate for a little bit, or you, at the traffic lights, you take some deep breaths. Take some deep breaths and calm yourself. So there are real studies linked to this. Now, also there is for the ice baths and things like that. You know, when you get an ice bath to build up your immune system. Lots of men are doing it on YouTube and on TV. Apparently, it's supposed to make you stronger and things like that. But definitely help you with your mental acuity. So there's a lot to be said about breathing and helping your heart rate. And like I said, there are studies to reflect this. So what else is there? So if it helps your heart rate and your blood pressure, what else can it help with? So also in the studies, it talks about it can help with your posture. It can help with your balance and stability and strength. So how is that helpful? Well, imagine, for example, you're getting on in years. Maybe you're 70 years old. And bending over, tying up your shoelaces may become difficult. If you practice yoga for a little while, let's just say 6 months, then you're very likely to build up strength in your core muscle areas, like in your core, like your abdomen and your obliques. You're also likely to build up really good balance, and also being calm. So these things really attribute to helping elderly people, infirm people, well, anybody really, become stronger in their core, in their balance, and being a little bit more mindful of their body. So, for example, a lot of people that are elderly end up in hospital because they've fallen over. Maybe they've tripped over something on the floor, fallen over, broken their hip. And it's often the case that they can't go home until they're able to be independent and look after themselves. And that's not possible if you can't walk. And you can't walk because you've got a broken hip. So practicing yoga, like I said, will strengthen the muscles and your actual bones by doing this practices. Now, I haven't really explained exactly what yoga is, but I don't know how many, but there's a lot of different poses. That's what they call it, a pose, where you sit, stand, or lie in a particular way that challenges your body. So, for example, you could stand on one leg and put your hands together above your head, up in the air. It sounds really, really easy. And to start with, yeah, it is quite easy. And that's the idea. It's a very easy and simple thing to be able to stand maybe on one leg. But it gets progressively harder. So standing on one leg, leaning forward, leaning all the way forward with your arms out, and then maybe bending that leg that's behind you, and then leaning back and holding on to that foot while standing on one leg behind you. Now that becomes more challenging. So, as I said, there's lots of different poses to try and help with different aspects of your body. Maybe for your back, maybe for your stomach, maybe for your feet or neck. And then there's also another level of learning about breathing. Slowing your breathing down, especially after these poses, because some of these poses are a little bit challenging, make you get quite tired and worn out and maybe out of breath because you're holding a pose that's challenging for your body. And all these poses, they're not really designed to be dangerous or really, really difficult for everybody. Don't get me wrong, there are some very difficult poses, but they're not designed to hurt anybody. You know, it's what your body could do if you give it time. Now, I was just saying about the breathing. So the breathing for different aspects can also help you emotionally, mentally, and physically if you practice this breathing for a period of time. Now, it seems very bizarre and odd just to talk about practicing breathing because we all breathe all the time anyway. So why do we need to practice it? Now, I struggled with this idea for a while and meditation. But as you've probably guessed, I've been practicing yoga myself for, 3 months now. And to start with, I found some of it quite easy and I thought, oh yeah, I'm good at this. Because being a man, I have different skeleton and muscle group to some of the ladies. So some of the poses that were more inclined for pressure on the arms and the chest, like upper body, were actually a little bit easier for me. Now, there are ways to making all these poses harder and harder and harder, which is what they suggest you do. If something's very easy, Make it a little bit harder. Challenge your body so you become better. There are, however, a whole ton of poses that I can't even do, can't even attempt, because I can't blame my skeleton and my muscle group for not being able to do a particular pose, like putting your hands together in a prayer position behind your back. Now, generally, not always, but generally, that's harder for men because of their muscle groups. But given time and practice, you could be able to, if you so choose, to practice to get into any move, whether it's sitting there in the lotus position with your legs crossed, or whether it's putting your hands behind your back in that prayer pose. You could eventually, if you wanted to, get to these positions, but it just takes time and effort. Now, I only go twice a week. I might start going on a Sunday as well. A little bit extra commitment from my end. So far, I've really enjoyed yoga, not just because there's a nice connection of people with like-minded thoughts, and the thought is kind of like a spiritual thought of, being calm, peaceful, happy, whereas that attitude you don't always get in other activities or other sports. So there's that positive. I like that side of it. I like the fact that there's a similarity between some of these yoga poses and calisthenics. No, forgive me if I've said that wrong. Calisthenics. And calisthenics is a little bit similar to gymnastics, where you, for example, would do pull-ups or muscle-ups, which are like up higher again. And one of the things I'm trying to do, that's in yoga and kind of also in calisthenics, is a handstand. Now, you might think, oh, well, handstand's easy. Any child can do a handstand, Kids do handstands and cartwheels all day long in the playground and on the field. Yes, okay. But I want to be able to do a handstand from standing still, putting my hands down on the floor and slowly lifting my body up into the air. Now, that's a whole new ball game. That's very, very different. That's a lot of power, control, balance, building up strength in your wrists and forearms. Now, I used to be able to do handsprings, like where you run and do a handstand and flip over. And I used to be quite flexible, sort of 15, 20 years ago. But now I'm coming up to 50 this year. I'm a lot less... I'm a bit more cowardly, to be honest. I'm a bit too cowardly. I don't feel like I can just run and do that without worrying about the consequences should I land on my back or my bum. So I am a bit more cowardly, and I want to get over myself. I want to get past that. All right. I can do a handstand up against a wall. I can do a few press-ups in the handstand pose. So I'm building up strength in my shoulders and wrists and arms. But that control and pure stability, strength of being able to do it from standing up, standing up and just bending down and just even touching the floor is great for me. Because of my jobs and my work for the last sort of 10 years, I've done a lot of sitting down on my backside, and movement has become less and less. So alongside this yoga, I try to get out for an hour's walk once or twice a day and start building that up. And I'm not getting as much activity as I'd like. I can blame some of that on the weather. I can blame some of that on going through an emotional time right now, a bit of trauma in my life. And so I can put that onto that for a while, but not forever. So I'm challenging myself to be able to do 1, a handstand, and 2, a pistol squat. Now, I don't think a pistol squat is anything to do with yoga. That's more calisthenics. And maybe one day I'll go to a calisthenics class. But it's something I've seen on YouTube or on Instagram, and I thought, yeah, that looks really challenging, and it looks cool. I want to be able to do it. I don't want to be old and hunched over and decrepit and feel really old. I want to be vibrant, lively, energetic, and to be able to show the fact that I'm not bent over and decrepit. So yeah, as I said, I've been doing yoga for the last sort of 3 months, and I'm really surprised. Well, I was hoping to be a lot better, a lot faster, but that's just because I'm impatient and I want everything now. So I'm learning more and more about patience. I'm learning more and more about myself, which sounds very bizarre. But it's true. I'm looking inwards a lot more, partially to do with my circumstances, partially to do with yoga. And my breathing is much better. My sleeping is much better. My posture, is so much better. And I'm getting a lot less backaches. So those on their own are just amazing. That's worth doing it just for that. Stretching a lot more. Just everything about yoga so far is really been beneficial and positive and good. Now, one of the questions I read earlier when I researched to talk to you guys a bit more about yoga was, can you injure yourself? Now, I guess you could if you were pushing yourself too hard. But something that's repeated by the teacher in yoga again and again and again is to check in with yourself. That basically means look and feel about your body to see if anything is uncomfortable or painful or not how it should be. So that's why a lot of the stretches are done slowly. And you warm up a little bit first, with some breathing and some movement. And everything's done slowly and gently so you don't hurt yourself. That's the plan. Now, like I said, it's helped my posture, my breathing, sleeping, strength, just in my balance. There was, going on a tangent a bit now, there was an Instagram post saying about when you get older, past 40, you should be able to do this challenge, this test. And that's to stand on one foot, bend over, pick up your sock, put it on your foot, bend over again, pick up your shoe, put your shoe on, tie the lace up, all while standing on one foot, and then put your foot down on the floor. Well, I tried it, obviously. And I was a bit disappointed in myself. So yes, my balance was pretty terrible. Maybe I'm just of that age, but I used to roller skate. So and I could skate on ice. Well, I still can skate and roller skate. I roller skated with blades. So back in the 90s and early 2000s, we had 2 different types of skating. There's roller boots, which we used to call quads. Quads as in 4, with the wheels in 4 corners of the boot. Then there was the inline skates, which we called like rollerblades and blading. And I chose that version. And subsequently, I didn't do this on purpose, but subsequently, I can now ice skate because I've been rollerblading for a few years at the time. And that's something that hasn't gone away. I went skating 5 years ago, and it was like ducktail water, just like cycling a bike. And even a few years ago, I would play with my children on skateboards. These were long boards, a bit like a bit like people trying to pretend they could surf on the land. So they were pretty long, quite easy to balance on, especially if you did the wheels up tight, the trucks up tight. So I've been fairly good at balance in the last sort of most parts of my life, you know, when I was a teenager and again when I was a bit more of an adult. I even used to be able to do front flips and back flips on the trampoline with my children 15 years ago. So I was active and I did have good balance. You know, I could walk across a beam, I could skateboard, I could roller skate. So up until sort of 10 years ago, those skills were still in me. But now my 3 or 4 months ago, my balance got pretty bad. Now, I don't think that's to do with my ears or my head. That's just lack of practice, I guess. So that's starting to come back to me now. So that's making me feel good and happy that that's coming back to me. My balance is coming back. The strength in my shoulders and arms and forearms is coming back. My posture. So just everything positive, really. Everything positive and good. And like I said about the spiritual side of things. So I'm really, really pleased and surprised at just how deep the benefits of yoga go. Now, there's a number of men in the yoga class. There was a couple of young lads in the yoga class. But I would say my yoga class is probably 60 to 70% women. Which, I mean, I'm not complaining, you know. I'd rather be in a yoga class, you know, and getting to know other women, which are much better to look at, than a sweaty man lifting iron weights over and over again, grunting and sweating at me. So that's just me. I just prefer to look at women than look at men. And also, I'm kind of embracing the fact that I'm not a huge, big, muscular guy. And I don't need to impress anybody. I don't need to validate myself as a man that I can lift heavy weights. I go to the gym and lift heavy weights. My granddad, if you might see in another video, is 97 years old. He's very short, you know. He's like 4'5" or something. He's very short. Like my mother, rest her soul. And he's worked with men all his life in industries like concrete and the railway. And he's never decided to take steroids or go to the gym. Although that wasn't really much of a thing back then. But he's just embraced who he is. You know, because there's a lot of benefits to being smaller. And a lot of that comes down to health benefits of your body as you get older. So if you lift weights, lifting these heavy weights, your muscles do get bigger and you do get stronger. But once you stop that, it all disappears really, really quickly. And then you got to keep chasing and keep chasing and keep chasing. Now, I suppose you could say the same for yoga. But yoga is a bit more spiritual, a bit more day-to-day living. You know, if you pick something up off the floor, you're bending down. If you're aware of yourself and how you're bending and how much movement you've done during the day, then you're much more likely to sustain a healthier lifestyle for longer. Well, that's my theory anyway. You can disagree. You can put your comments in the bottom and argue with me and disagree with me that lifting weights is better than yoga. Okay, so that'll be a fun conversation. So all in all, yoga has really been nothing but positive for me. I think I'm going to keep it up for quite a while. I think it's something easy that you can keep doing, regardless of a gym membership or not. So that's another good thing. You don't need any specialist equipment. You can just sit on the floor and do yoga. And like I said, it's good for all age groups as well. But, you know, weightlifting you wouldn't recommend to a child necessarily or a pregnant lady necessarily. All right, so that kind of wraps it up. That's me for the last sort of 3 months going to yoga and my honest review about it and how I feel it's affected me. All right. If you've tried yoga or Pilates or something similar, let me know in the comments. I would really be interested, because I thought long and hard whether to go to Pilates or yoga. So that's something that interests me. Let me know in the comments. All right, that's it for this week, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Take care, keep practicing English, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.